All right, hello everybody, and welcome back. We have another amazing guest with us in the form of Mina, coming from Philadelphia, and we're going to totally divert from the last topic and into another really exciting area of sustainability here. So can't wait to dive into this. But Mina is a man of many talents and interests. He's a father of three, a financial expert, a data-driven thinker, and all these different things, but also has this unique knowledge and gift in the area of cannabis, and that's what he's going to be talking about today. So, Mina, thank you so much for joining us from Philadelphia. Good morning to you.
Thank you, Nate. Appreciate it. Um, and thank you everyone for joining. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay, and I'll
Perfect.
dive right in. Well, thanks for joining again. Uh, my name is Mina Mishrikey. I run the investment team here at Meredith Capital Holdings. And just for introductory purposes, Meredith at a glance, we are a private equity platform focused on investing in the cannabis and hemp spaces. We just launched our fifth fund in 6 years. Have roughly 350 million of assets under management, over 75 portfolio companies. Our funds have performed quite well. Our first fund has returned roughly 300% of capital, and our second fund has returned a little less than 50% of capital already in its fourth year of a 6-year process. And our third and fourth funds and our infrastructure fund, which we recently launched, are are earlier in their life cycle. And this isn't meant to be an advertisement. I want to focus on I want to focus on the topic at hand, which is the intersection of cannabis and sustainability. But it is worth mentioning that Meredith also serves as a sub-advisor for a new fund called Replant Hemp, which is focused on this low carbon green technology that I'm going to be talking about today. So with that, just quickly on the global cannabis movement, it is a movement. It's been largely illegal throughout the world. North America is leading the charge in terms of legalization initiatives and market size, et cetera. But it is a global movement. Here in the US, it is a federally illegal substance. However, it is legal on a state-by-state basis, depending on where you are. It's legal in 39 states and the District of Columbia. Usually, this state programs go from illegality to a medical market, and then evolve from there from a medical market to what are the green shaded markets, which are recreational or adult use markets. Recently, President Biden released a statement addressing federal cannabis reform, which has been widely awaited by the industry. And he announced a couple of things. He announced a pardon of federal offenses for simple possession. He urged governors to do the same with regards to state offenses. And he asked the Secretary of Health and Human Services and the Attorney General to initiate a process, an administrative process, to review how cannabis is scheduled under the federal law. And the presumption is over the next several years that cannabis will be either rescheduled or descheduled and therefore federally legalized. And there's a bunch of federal initiatives that are pushing aspects of this. Um, but it's important to mention this because the industry is progressing at a federal level, which has created a lot of headwinds for the industry, and those headwinds will become tailwinds. Just quickly on the cannabis growth opportunity, this is pretty conservative by my estimation for a couple of reasons. Number one, this chart doesn't account for federal legalization, which we just talked about. It doesn't include ancillary business opportunities, which we invest in. It doesn't include the sustainability plays, which we're here to discuss. This is really focused on the kind of state-by-state medical and adult use programs, which is how we refer to recreational programs. But what's interesting about this chart, whenever you have a private equity or venture capital company pitching their business and their space, the chart, looks like this. It starts low and it goes high over time. What's different here, however, is that black line at the top. The illicit market is roughly 2 to 3 to 4 times the size, depending on where you are, of the legal market. The consumer is out there. The consumer is out there consuming the plant. And again, I'm largely not going to be speaking about the consumption of the plant today, but just to paint a picture, that transition from the illicit market to the legal market is very much akin to what happened post-Prohibition in the 1930s, when bootleggers were slowly phased out and really no longer exist. So that process is underway, and what we like to call the cannibalization of the illicit markets. But it is a high-growing industry, and that comes with costs. And I'll dovetail into the sustainability themes or the sustainability section of the industry. And look, we need to be honest with ourselves. The fast-growing cannabis industry, which is largely driven on indoor cultivation and greenhouse cultivation in very limited areas, outdoor cultivation, but the indoor cultivation that is proliferated, really driven by regulation. Some states only allow indoor cultivation. Uses a lot of energy, uses a lot of CO2, and is largely unsustainable. For full transparency, Merida has some investments that are that have exposure to indoor cultivation. A lot of times that's just driven again by regulations, but it's something that the industry needs to address. And my thesis, our thesis as a fund, is that the cannabis industry can be really a source of sustainability in a way that would dwarf the unsustainable aspects of the industry that you see on this page. And that's what we're really excited about, and what I'm here to talk about, and hopefully to open some eyes. What isn't on this page, by the way, is the unsustainability of packaging requirements that we face in the industry as well, which is another area that is being addressed. So flipping the sustainability paradigm, as I just alluded to, here's some notable quotes from some folks that obviously Henry Ford, back in the 30s, he was actually he created an automobile almost entirely made out of hemp, and saw this vision very early. Kleiner Perkins, John Doerr. Obviously this is a broader comment on the direction that our world is going in, and addressing those needs. And Jeff Whaling, who's somebody that we partner with very closely as a part of the chair of the National Hemp Association, and is the founder of Replant Hemp, which I mentioned earlier. He shares our vision in terms of building this industrial hemp industry. Hemp is really being rediscovered. It's been used, the fibrous components of the plant have been used for 5,000 years. And the advent of the decortication technology in the early part of the 20th century led to cultivation restrictions. It led to the illegal, it led to eventually cannabis as a whole becoming federally illegal. A lot of people don't know that it was really driven by the industrial technology that started this global illegal movement. And recently that paradigm has changed as governments are recognizing the sustainability benefits, but also the massive economic potential. So what we're really talking about here is an emerging market with supply chains that are underdeveloped and need to be built and addressed. China has been, kind of the leader in the hemp world, although they lack in a lot of the technological advancements that North America and Europe have. And Europe has had a hemp economy for some time now, though now it's massively expanding as some of these themes come to come to the forefront, some of these sustainability themes. So what's so special about hemp? Well, it's a net negative carbon, has a net negative carbon footprint. It is the number one crop in the world in terms of sequestering carbon. If you took an acre of hemp and you took an acre of the Amazon rainforest, the acre of hemp would sequester twice as much carbon as that acre of the Amazon rainforest, just to put things in context. The only thing that sequesters more carbon from the atmosphere is our oceans. So hemp is the number one agricultural use case for sucking carbon out of the atmosphere on the earth, on ground. And aside from that, it has all sorts of industrial, nutritional benefits that we're going to get into. It's a crop that grows very fast. It grows like, bamboo. It grows from, 0 to 15 to sometimes 20 feet, depending on the genetics and the location, in 100 days. The roots go very deep. And that's where a lot of that carbon trapping and restoring nutrients to the soil, the phytoremediation becomes very, very important. There's a movie that I would encourage people to look at here. It's about 12 minutes on YouTube, and it's sponsored by Patagonia, but it really brings to life some of these themes that I'm talking about. So again, cannabis more than a high, forgive the pun, but nutritional and industrial applications are pretty wide ranging. Twine and rope are pretty obvious industrial applications on that end of things. Consumer textiles, a more sustainable, more longer lasting version of cotton. Non-woven fabrics, which is an area of investment for us. We have a portfolio company that takes non-woven fabrics, which you can think of as biodegradable, or as wet wipes, diapers, feminine hygiene products. All of these products that we use every day, you use them once, you throw them away. They're 90% petroleum-based synthetic materials. They do not biodegrade. They sit in a dump for 1,000 years. What if you could take hemp fibers and create a wet wipe, for example, that is more absorbent than the non-sustainable alternative, and use it once and throw it away, and it biodegrades. That's what we're talking about here. Construction applications, another massive play. The cement, for example, is one of the most polluting materials in the world due to the heat that's required during production. Every year we use 4 billion tons of cement. That accounts, just cement, just the production of cement accounts for 8% of global CO2 emissions. And of course, concrete is made of cement. Concrete is the second most used product in the world after water by weight. Just let that sink in for a second. Every person uses about 3 tons of concrete a year, if you were to divide it out. And look, our population's growing. The needs are going to increase over time. How do we make concrete and cement and construction more green? Insulation as well. Hemp insulation is a use case that we're widely excited about. It has a higher R value than fiberglass, which is the broad-based alternative now. And it's fire retardant, it's pest resistant, it's mold resistant, has all sorts of benefits, and you're trapping carbon inside of walls for whatever the use case is of that wall, 50 years, 100 years, 200 years. So building materials, another massive area of a total addressable market. Again, we're cannabis investors. People think, oh, you invest in in pre-rolls and in brands that make products that make people high, that get people high. And we have some exposure in that areas, but these are much bigger total addressable markets. And this is why we're so excited about this space. Um, Automotive, another example, as electric vehicles push gas vehicles towards extinction, the demand for lighter weight products in that mobility sector is massive. BMWs, the VW group, they use hemp for their door panels in certain models. Even the Bugatti Veyron, which is the most expensive car in the world, has hemp composite panels in its doors. And so again, massive, massive total addressable markets, and a part of the solution to global climate change. So, bottom line, hemp is a regenerative crop, and it sucks more carbon out of the atmosphere than any other crop. And it has all these industrial use cases, so why not use it? And demand is not the issue. Really, it's building the scale and the quantity needed to meet accelerating corporate appetite. We're going to see demand acceleration here. The bottleneck really right now is industrial hemp processors that are just coming online in North America. And they've faced significant barriers to entry. These are big CapEx projects. But demand will accelerate as these processors reach scale and they can handle the needs of these big corporates that are doing R&D right now for the most part, doing a little bit in the production area, but not much. So the supply demand dynamics as an investor are really attractive for the foreseeable future. Despite, when you think about this, it's a commodity. The prices will compress. That's what happens with all commodities. But despite that, we see demand acceleration out a few years, and way too much demand now as is, and not nearly enough supply. And that's what we're investing in, is that supply chain. I'm going to pivot here to cannabis used as an ingredient in other markets that you might not really appreciate. Cannabis used in the skincare and personal care markets. That's happening now. A lot of makeup products are using certain minor cannabinoids that you may not be aware of. And for supplement and nutraceutical applications, again, massive pharmaceutical applications, food and beverage applications. Big pharma is playing in this space in a big way right now, and people don't necessarily know it. The Coca-Colas of this world are going to come into this space once it's federally legal. And, when they do, they're going to get their products. They're not from a plant, but they're going to be getting their products from manufacturers that are creating cannabinoids in a much more efficient and scalable manner in a science lab. These companies are chemical companies. They need single-use pure ingredients, and they need consistency in their ingredients. And so we think a lot about that future, and we've invested in that area. But that's not to say that the plant is going anywhere. The plant has been consumed by consumers for over 5,000 years. And genetic development on the plant side is something that we're invested in heavily as well. The plant right now has largely been built on antiquated cloning techniques that really have come out of a world where, cannabis was illegal. You were growing cannabis in your basement. And you're growing it in the dark, and using cloning techniques that have really led to wide scale disease in the industry, and aren't really scalable. And so traditional agriculture practices are rooted in planting seeds. So we're investing in seed development companies that we see that are going to massively disrupt the cannabis supply chain. One other area I want to hit on is hemp hearts as a protein source. Our planet's population is exploding. Sources for ingredients primarily rely on unsustainable agricultural practices. Plant proteins have not really been a good replacement. Soy protein, pea protein, some of these other proteins are just not scalable, or they don't taste great, or they have allergen aspects to it, or they use GMOs and synthetic chemicals and fertilizers. Hemp heart proteins really provide a promise of not only providing a protein that is almost perfect, actually, factually, the egg white is the perfect protein in terms of the mix of omega-3s and omega-6s. But hemp heart proteins, pretty darn close. And and hemp heart is not an allergen. It doesn't need the processing that some of these other plant-based proteins have. And there are companies out there that have remove the taste to make it tasteless. And, really the play here is, you can go into Whole Foods today and get hemp heart proteins for your shake, or your salad. And that's got, a different flavor profile. But the much bigger opportunity is using hemp heart proteins instead of soy or pea proteins as an ingredient into plant-based manufactured products. And that we see as a massive opportunity. It's a much more sustainable way to get protein into the human body. And again, much bigger than the total addressable market of what people think of first when they think of cannabis, which is getting high. Lastly, I want to touch on the medical applications. This isn't necessarily sustainability themed, but is a massive total addressable market that, again, we invest in heavily. I think people don't know it, but this medical cannabis, which is a term today for medical that is used in medical markets, is a bit of a misnomer. There's a lot that's lacking in terms of the medicalization of the cannabis space relative to what you see in the pharmaceutical world. And so, but these phytopharmaceuticals do have massive benefits. The most obvious one, which was, epitomized by the development of Epidiolex by a company that went through clinical development to bring that to market. Cannabis used to minimize seizures is the most striking example, but as an convalescent, as for glaucoma, for migraines. I could go down the list for sleep, for as a replacement for opioids. Cannabis is bringing major savings to the healthcare industry, and reimbursers are starting to see that, and you're starting to see the realization of a theory that we've had for some time, which is the concept of medical reimbursement, insurance reimbursement for using cannabis instead of opioids, for example. That's happening globally. It's happening domestically. In fact, starting April 1st, 2023, if you're a medical cannabis patient and you're a Medicaid patient in the state of New York, your cannabis will be free, less a copay. And that is going to open big markets that people aren't necessarily focused on. Most people are focused on the adult use market. We also invest in clinical development platforms that use cannabinoids for pulmonary indications or the like. And so, again, you might know somebody that has chronic pulmonary fibrosis. Who would have thought that certain cannabinoids can relieve that that pressure and that pain in your lungs? So massive opportunity. People focus on federal legalization, but people don't see the bigger opportunities, which are these industrial applications, as well as these food applications, as well as these medical applications. Finally, just to close the loop, the UN has sustainability development goals, which some of you may be familiar with, and cannabis addresses many of these sustainability goals, and the UN has recognized that. In fact, we had a meeting at the United Nations on May 5th, 2022, to talk specifically about cannabis addressing these sustainability development goals with global leaders at the United Nations. And again, people don't think about cannabis as a sustainability solution, but I'm here to tell you that it is. So thank you for your time, and happy to take any questions.
Awesome. Well, Mina, thank you so much. This is incredible. I mean, it's really remarkable, all the different areas. I mean, I knew some of these, but you've certainly enlightened me as to all these incredible possibilities that cannabis offers. We're about at time. I want to slip in one quick question on you, though.
Yep.
Considering all these possibilities, as we move into this post-legalized area, what do you think is the number one way that cannabis will impact society in like 10, 15 years?
Wow. That's the problem with that question is I'm being forced to minimize a plant that has so many benefits, whether
Right.
it's for health and wellness, or whether it's for sustainability, or whether it's for food and protein. Um, but if I were to venture to guess, the medical application, I give it a tie between the medical applications as well as the industrial applications.
Awesome.
These are huge total addressable markets. And again, my message here is this is so much more than people think.
Yeah.
And we're really excited to get that word out.
Yeah, well clarified on your part. Thank you for this presentation, for the wisdom you've offered here. And everybody stick with us. We got another great session coming at you. Thank you so much, Mina. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
everybody.